What Is It Wednesdays, presented by the Danbury Public Library. Each time we'll meet, we'll look at an interesting item from nature and see if we can discover what it is. This week's item is this interesting thing here. Look at that. Now it looks like a piece of wood, doesn't it? It's got all this rough on the outside here that kind of looks like bark. But the thing is, it's very heavy. It's much heavier than wood should actually be. And if we turn it on its side, look at that. That doesn't look like wood, does it? No, it's actually smooth and kind of cold. And if we flip it the other way, this side's shiny because it's been polished. Now, can we polish wood? We can kind of polish wood if we put things on it like wood varnish, but this doesn't have wood varnish on it. Something else going on. So we have something here that kind of looks like wood on the outside, but it's much heavier than wood should be. And this part here doesn't look like wood. It looks like something else that's smooth and kind of cool when you touch it. So can you guess what this thing is? I'm going to give you some time to make a guess. Now, if you want to go ahead and research for yourself and look around on the internet and in books and see if you can find the answer, you can pause this video and come back later when you have a guess. Or if you want to know the answer now, you can follow on and listen because I'm going to tell you the answer in just a little bit. In 3, 2, 1. So do you want to know what the answer to this is? If you guess that this is wood, you are kind of correct. It is wood, but it is a very, very, very old piece of wood. This is what is known as petrified wood. Petrified wood is the fossilized remains of a tree that was alive millions and millions of years ago. It's the result of a process where all the wood has actually turned to stone. So this part that's nice and shiny here, this is polished stone. So all that in there is stone. And all this outside bit that looks like bark, that's also stone. So how did this happen? I'm going to put this down because it's very heavy. So I'm going to put that down real quick and I'll tell you all about how it works. You see, to understand this process, we need to look at what happens to wood normally when a tree dies. If a piece of wood is left sitting outside above the ground long enough, it starts to get all kind of soft and crumbly, and eventually it'll turn to dust. If we're walking around out in the woods and we look at some of the trees that have fallen over and some of the stumps that are left, we'll see this start to happening. And if you were to touch some of them, it might even break off in your hand. This is a normal process. That's called decay. What's happening is that wood is being exposed to rainwater and especially to air. But if we were to take a piece of wood and we buried it under the ground, under sediment, which is soil, and even especially volcanic ash that has lots of minerals in it, we're going to have a different process happening. See, what's going on is that being buried under all of that soot and that sediment and that soil makes it hard for oxygen to get down to that wood. It slows the decay process way, way, way down. This allows another process called fossilization to take place. So what happens in fossilization is that you've got that piece of wood buried under all that soil and water starts to go after it. But that water is filled with things like quartz. This is quartz. So quartz will be in that water. That's what most of it contains. But there might also be other minerals like copper in that water. And there could be this one, which is pyrite. How shiny that is. And there could also be this one, which is iron. All of these minerals and other interesting minerals could be contained in that water. And what happens is that water that has all that minerals in it starts to go and seep into that wood that's buried under the ground. Now, while oxygen can't reach it as easily, some still does, and there is still some decay. So, as parts of the plant start to slowly break down, that water with all those minerals in it rushes into that spot, and the minerals settle into that spot. Because eventually the water evaporates, leaving the mineral bits behind. And over enough time, all that's left of that piece of wood is all those minerals who have filled in slowly over years and years and years, all the organic matter that was that tree. That means that this was once a tree that slowly over years and years and years got filled up with all different types of minerals. And when those minerals kind of solidified together, they formed rock that now gives us a three-dimensional fossil of a very old piece of wood. And while petrified wood is much more plentiful than other fossils like dinosaur bones, it still takes millions of years to create. So when we're looking at a piece of fossilized wood, we're actually looking at a piece of a tree that was around millions and millions of years ago, possibly even when dinosaurs were roaming the earth. That's really cool, right? There are petrified forests located all around the world, but one of the largest is here in the United States. Arizona's Petrified Forest National Park is the biggest concentration of petrified wood on Earth, and it's really cool to visit. But if you do visit, you really need to be sure not to take any of the petrified wood home. It is nationally protected, which means removing it from the park is actually a federal crime. If we want a piece of petrified wood of our own, it's best to go to a rock shop where they have sources where they can legally obtain the wood. That way we're not removing any of this valuable resource from the natural environment, because scientists use petrified wood to learn more about the past, what kind of trees were available, how big those trees got, and even, because a lot of dinosaurs were herbivores, what kind of food dinosaurs ate. So petrified wood is actually very important for scientists. So leaving it in areas where it's supposed to be remained is a good idea. Thank you for joining me this week on What's It Wednesday. I'll see you again next week when we look at another amazing find from nature. Until then, happy exploring and stay curious. Bye everyone.